So remember I mentioned before the double data type can display decimal points. So we're going to try that out. We'll just enter numbers into our program with random decimals. Blah, 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 because why not? Okay, so we get these two numbers with 5 decimal places, it looks like. Now, in C++, you can actually manipulate the way that decimals are displayed in your programs. And I'm going to show you how to do that. There's so many things you can manipulate in C++, but I feel like this is a good, useful, and practical example. Let's say you wanted to limit the decimal places to 2 places or something, right? What we will have to do is we'll have to include a library. So if you come up to the top of the code where it says include lesson greater than sign IO stream, we're going to have to include a different library. So type #include right underneath, and then lesson sign greater than sign, type iomanip. So this basically stands for input output manipulation. So usually we use IO stream for C out and C in, and now we're going to use iomanip for something else. So let me show you how to actually use this correctly. So let's say right before we output our answers, so just after we do all of our math and all of our inputs, type C out fixed show point semicolon. So just like this, C out, lesson sign, fixed, lesson sign, show point, semicolon. So what does this do? Well, very simply, this just shows the decimal point. By default, it will show the decimal point, but this is just kind of showing you the correct command to use. Okay, so after you type that, you're going to write another cout statement, and you're going to say set precision in parentheses 2. So 2 represents 2 decimal places. This is called a function. We're setting the precision, and we're passing in the number 2. We'll get into functions a little bit later, but this is basically a function called set precision that exists in the iomanip library, so to speak. Okay, so let's give that a shot. So if we type the same sort of long kind of, decimal points, yada, 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 yada. Notice now it will limit our decimal answers to only 2 places. So how can this be useful? Well, this can be useful in programs that deal with money. So let's say you're making a program that has to do with stocks or something, or stock prices. Typically for display purposes, you'd want only 2 decimal places. So that's a good example. Now let's say you wanted to just remove the decimal point entirely. You just wanted to get rid of whatever decimals come after, right? Here's what you would do. You would say cout fixed no show point. So this removes the decimal point, but this statement alone won't do anything. You actually have to add another statement, and we're going to say set precision 0. So let's run this and see what happens. Again, we'll put in our large decimal numbers. And now you notice we get 9 and we get 2 instead of our decimal numbers. So in this event, what C++ will do is when we're removing the decimal point, it will just round the number to the nearest whole number. So we get 9 and 2. The actual numbers were 8.9 and 2.2 or something. It just brought it down to 2 and up to 9. So that's an example of input-output manipulation. Okay, so I want to make a program where iomanip has an actual use case where this decimal point stuff can actually serve a purpose in the real world. So I'm just going to delete all this. And I'm going to make a program that is an investor calculator. And what this will do is it will calculate the amount of profit we have made from a stock and the amount of shares that we've bought. And we'll get into how exactly we're going to apply everything we've learned, iomanip, and all of this other stuff. So, okay, investor calculator program. Let's get started. So first things first, let's declare some variables. We'll call it a double, and we'll declare how many shares we have of the particular stock, the current price of the stock, and the purchase price. So this is also how you can declare multiple variables at once, all with the data type double. So we have 3 variables: shares, current price, and purchase price, all on one line. You can also make a new line and do this kind of thing, double current price, but I think this is a little more convenient. It's nice, quick, clean, only one line of code, so a little more efficient. Okay, the next thing we'll do is we'll create a welcome message for our program. Welcome to my investor calculator version 1.0. Okay, so I think that's all the variables we'll need right now, but as we program, I might think of some more. So let's do cout and then display our welcome message first things first. Always have to greet the user. We'll throw in an end line there. And then I'll say cout. Let's have the user input the amount of shares. So we'll do a /n. We'll give it an extra line of space with the end L and this \n. It'll give a little more room, so the program will look kind of neat. We'll say amount of shares equals, and then we will say, so we'll say amount of shares, semicolon. Next line, we'll do a cn shares. What else do we need from the user? Price purchased at, right? So we'll do next line. Price purchased at equals cn price purchase price, right? Next we'll say the current price do another cn current price, and I think that's good. So let's test, before we go any further, let's test that out really quickly to make sure that we can have the user input all the appropriate information. So let's say we bought 10 shares of a stock. We purchased them at $500 each, and the current price is $525. I don't know, random numbers. Okay, good. So it takes in all our variables. Now we have to do some math to discover what our profit would be. So, okay, we need another variable. So double profit is equal to, now the formula to get the profit in the stock market would be shares times current price minus shares times purchase price. So this should give us our profit. Now we'll say cout. You have made a profit of, and then we'll output the profit. I think that looks good. Let's give it a try. So 10 shares, purchased them at $500, and the current price is $525. You have made a profit of $250. But let's add some stuff to this. Let's make it look a little more eloquent. Let's say you have made a profit of $250, or whatever your profit might be. We'll say since, in quotes, we'll say since you bought, make sure you get some space between that, since you bought, then we'll say shares of this stock. Beautiful. Okay, so our program will now say you have made a profit of whatever your profit was since you bought however many numbers of shares of this stock. So that looks pretty good. Let's give that a shot. But let's type some new numbers. Let's type some decimals like we did before. Okay, so now we see that our profit says 1.59966, and our share number says 5.12341. There's just a lot of decimals there. So this is where formatting might actually come in handy in an actual use case. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to move some of this around, and I'm going to put our cout set precision commands into different parts of this last statement. So we're going to pick this apart a little bit, try to follow along. In fact, you know what? Let's just rewrite it entirely. So let's just do this over and let's think about this in a way that makes a little bit more sense. For the profit, let's say we want to show the number as 2 decimal places. And when displaying the number of shares, let's say we don't want any decimal places. We just want to show a nice whole number for, convenience. So let's say cout fixed show point. And remember, this shows the decimal point. And then we'll say cout set precision 2. And this sets the decimal point to 2 places. Now we'll make our statement that says cout, you have made a profit of, and then we'll say profit since, and now that will display our profit with 2 decimal places. For the next part, let's do a cout fixed no show point. So we're going to remove the decimal point. And then we'll say cout set precision 0. We're putting it back to 0. And then we'll continue our sentence. We'll say, oh, I spelled precision wrong. We'll continue our sentence, and then we'll say cout since space you bought space the number of shares, which will now be displayed with no decimal point. It will be a nice whole number of this stock, and L. And we'll add an extra end L, because why not? Just for some space. Okay, so we'll do some decimals again. You have made a profit of $4.15 since you bought 5 of this stock. Okay, so I think that's a good spot to stop and end the episode. In the next episode, we'll be looking at functions, how they work, and how to make them in C++. Stay tuned.